everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. As always, it is good to see you. There is a term in the English language called frenemy, a friend who is also an enemy. It is a word that aptly describes the US-Pakistan relationship. Barely 2 weeks after the US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is calling out Pakistan for its double games. He has articulated what has been an open secret for long. Pakistan has harbored the Taliban all along while engaging with the US on counterterrorism, gulping away millions of American dollars in the process. Mr. Blinken says the US will now reassess its ties with Pakistan. What does that mean, given that the Americans and the world have always known about Pakistan's love affair with the Taliban, and not just with the Taliban, with other terror groups for the last 20 years? After all, when the US Navy SEALs entered Abbottabad and shot dead Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden in 2011, they made sure that their ally, Pakistan, was kept completely in the dark. There is a good chance that he would have been tipped off, that is, Osama bin Laden would have been tipped off and whisked away to safety by the ISI. But the question today is, can the US do without Pakistan? It has nuisance value, that is, Pakistan has nuisance value because of its geography. It is even more dangerous given its influence over the Taliban now. And can the US afford to push Pakistan into the arms of China any further? We are looking at all those questions right here on Debrief over the next 30 minutes. First, a look at why the US is hopping mad with Pakistan, or is at least pretending to be.
A picture speaks 1,000 words, and this one has made the United States very, very angry. Pakistani ISI Chief Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid in Kabul during the final stages of the Taliban government formation, signaling Pakistan's absolute control over the cabinet of terror. Need more proof? The Taliban government has 5 UN proscribed terrorists, including FBI's most wanted man, Sirajuddin Haqqani, the man with a $10 million bounty on his head. A move that has left the United States red-faced. America's anger even played out in the US Capitol. Fuming lawmakers questioned the government on the duplicitous role of Pakistan in the 9/11 attacks. Under fire, Secretary of State Blinken told the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee that
Pakistan has a multiplicity of interests, some that are in conflict with ours. Pakistan is constantly hedging its bets about the future of Afghanistan while also harboring the Taliban, but also engages with us on counter-terrorism.
The gentleman's time has expired. The Secretary can answer the question.
The lawmakers also demanded that Washington reassess its relationship with Pakistan, to which Blinken said,
This is one of the things we're going to be looking at in the days and weeks ahead. The role that Pakistan has played over the last 20 years, but also the role we would want to see it play in the coming years.
But the reality may be far from the promises uttered. America has always known that Pakistan is a terror haven. After all, none less than Osama bin Laden was found nesting comfortably in 2011, just meters from a military academy. Even deposed Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has blamed Pakistan for pushing Taliban fighters across the border.
Intelligence estimates indicate the influx of over 10,000 jihadi fighters from Pakistan and other places in the last month, as well as support.
Also, America revisiting ties won't work because if they have to engage with the Taliban in any way, they have to go via Islamabad, the Taliban's handlers. CIA Director William Burns flew to Pakistan last week and met Army Chief General Qamar Bajwa. Blinken's remarks are only for public consumption, but it will be a tightrope walk for America. The United States has spent nearly $1 trillion fighting terror in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, they have nothing to show for the time and money they invested. But calling out Pakistan for nurturing terror havens might just be a step towards eliminating it. With Natasha Menden, Ritanshu Bhattacharya for CNN News 18.
Fact is that the US messed up in Afghanistan, and many people believe that Pakistan has been a big reason for their 20-year war ending in failure. Pakistan, we all know this, has midwifed the Taliban, harbored its leaders as they fled Afghanistan post the US invasion, and then even sent 12,000 trained terrorists to fight alongside the Taliban as they marched towards Kabul. But mind you, America has been a willing victim to Pakistan's con games. There's a reason for it. Pakistan's geography is such that no superpower, America or China, can ignore it.
ज़हनी गुलामी की जंजीरें तोड़ना ज्यादा मुश्किल होता है जो अभी अफगानिस्तान में गुलामी की जंजीरें तो तोड़ दी उन्होंने।
They praise
तालिबान लीडर जो टॉप हैं वो पैदा पाकिस्तान में हुए, पढ़े पाकिस्तान में। इसमें तो पाकिस्तान की खिदमत हैं कि इनको हमने तालीम दी और अब भी कई पढ़ रहे होंगे।
They endorse
तालिबान हमें कहते हैं हम आपके साथ हैं और इंशाल्लाह वो आके हमारे साथ कश्मीर फतह करके देंगे।
They dare. And while the US is finally making the right noises about Pakistan, for years the country has also been a necessary evil for them. And it all comes down to this: location, location, location.
Pakistan relationship and the US relationship is extraordinarily important regionally, and as we rolled out the South Asia strategy, we spoke about it in a regional context. It is not just about Afghanistan. This is about the importance of Pakistan and Pakistan's long-term stability as well. We have concerns about the future of Pakistan's government too, in terms of them. We want their government to be stable. We want it to be peaceful. And many of the same issues they're struggling with inside of Pakistan are our issues.
Pakistan is the gateway to Central Asia and has the distinction of sharing its borders with Iran, India, China, and Afghanistan. And it is for this reason that Pakistan plays a key role in US's geopolitics. It started with the purpose of curtailing Soviet expansionism back in the days of the Cold War. But one event changed everything. 9/11. And with that, Pakistan was put front and center in the war on terror in Afghanistan. While it's no secret that the Taliban, the very force that the US was fighting, was a creation of Pakistan itself, America continued to do business with the country. For 20 years, Pakistan played along, extracting billions of dollars from the US along with arms and ammunition. But at the same time, it continued to harbor Taliban's top leadership and nurtured them for a future takeover of Afghanistan. Now that Islamabad's mission is accomplished and Afghanistan has come full circle, is the US's reassessment threat simply too little too late? With Santosh Chaube, Anasya Kumar for CNN News 18.
What do we make of the US pronouncement of reassessing its ties with Pakistan? What does it mean? Will it remove Pakistan's status as a major non-NATO ally, which gives Islamabad privileged access to US weaponry? Or will it suspend all military and financial aid to Pakistan? Or is all this talk only hogwash to calm political tempers in Washington? I'm putting all those questions to my guests this evening who are joining me for a chat. Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, always good to have you with us. Ambassador Rajiv Dogra with us as well. Ambassador Dogra, I'm going to start with you. Why is America acting hurt and surprised at Pakistan's betrayal?
Well, you started with a term called frenemy, a friend who's also an enemy. If you ask a Pakistani, he would smirk, he would smile, he would laugh, and he would say that we consider America a sucker for punishment. And this has not started now or 20 years back. This started in 1950s when the CIA chief, a man called Dulles, he came to Pakistan, went to NWFP, then MWFP, Peshawar, and he was shown Pathan army men riding big horses. And he was so impressed. And I'm not joking. It is there in his biography. I've quoted it in my book. He said, these Pakistanis, they're big and they ride strong animals, so they must be very good. Since then, America's love affair has started, though it has been deceived time and time again. And in my opinion, this syndrome can only be called Masochism, because there is no other example in history where a country has been deceived so often, and yet it likes the punishment it is receiving. Ahmed Gul, the previous ISI chief who passed away, he said openly that we have defeated Russians with Mujahideen and American help. We will now defeat America with America's help, which is exactly what has happened. So it was a case of self-destruction. And Biden, the new president, when he was vice president and was meeting Hamid Karzai in Afghanistan, and Hamid Karzai complained about ISI, he said Pakistan is 50 times more important to me than Afghanistan. And as president, he's messed up both the things. He's messed up Afghanistan. No one in history has left a country with the most modern arms and equipment for a terrorist organization. Arms and equipment worth $20 billion. And he can do nothing about Pakistan. He mistakes Pakistan for its strategic location, whereas any fool will tell him that it is Afghanistan which is strategically more important today than Pakistan, because it is Afghanistan which touches all the Central Asian states, is just a stone throw away from Russia, is next to China, borders Iran and Pakistan, and is kite flying distance away from India. There's no other country in the region which is as strategically important as Afghanistan. And Biden has chosen to throw that country to the wolves, a wolf called the Taliban and a greater wolf called the Pakistan. So no one can help them.
General Huda, that prompts me to my next question, and taking from what Ambassador Dogra has said. FBI's most wanted man, Sirajuddin Haqqani, the man with a $10 million bounty on his head, is now the Interior Minister of Afghanistan. The Haqqani network not just has close ties with the ISI, it is also as hardline as they get. Does that make Pakistan indispensable to the US and the world vis-a-vis Afghanistan? That you simply, it has a nuisance value and you'll just simply have to deal with it.
So Shreya, this is the narrative that Pakistan has been giving all along, that we are too important to fail, and therefore you must support us despite our, nurturing all these terrorist groups within Pakistan. You need us, because if we fail, somehow, terror organizations will get hold of nuclear weapons. And unfortunately, America has bought this narrative for a very, very long time. I just cannot imagine why a country, which is as smart as the Americans, have been so badly fooled by the Pakistani deep state on what their importance is. I think Ambassador Dogra is, just completely spot on. It's time that we need to call out, the Pakistanis for what they are. So I'm seeing, the Secretary of State's statements of what they will do now. I fear at the end of the day, these people will still fall into the same trap as the earlier administrations of the United States of saying Pakistan is too important to fail, it's too big to fail, and therefore we need to keep supporting Pakistan. I also think if the Americans want to continue with their counter-terrorist operations, what they're calling over-the-horizon operations in Afghanistan against, for example, the Islamic State, they will at some stage, try and rope in Pakistan. So I think as far as India is concerned, we need to be clear that, this link between the Americans and the Pakistanis is not something that is going to go away. Will it impact our bilateral relations with the US? I fear, Shreya, it might, because if they continue, despite the fact that they pulled out from Afghanistan, to continue to support Pakistan, continue to prop up Pakistan, it could well impact our ties also.
Ambassador Dogra, is China. I want to ask you what you think about Pakistan impacting the US-India relationship. General Huda feels it will. But I also want to ask you if China is a factor in the US having limitless patience with Pakistan and its terror links.
Well, firstly, I agree with General Huda when he says that, any sane country should really think deep about continuing its relationship the way they have done with Pakistan. And I'll go a step further and make a rather bold statement, which I've thought about very carefully over a long period of time, and I would say it with all the authority at my command, that when Pakistan fails, it will be a success for the world because it will mean peace for the world. So Pakistan must fail for the peace and tranquility in the world. Having said that, and I'm ready to explain it further whenever you wish, but having said that, China has limited self-interest starting with its state called the Xinjiang, where it is worried that Taliban-trained terrorists, the Uyghurs, may come and cause it trouble. And that trouble it does not want because 3 of the BRI routes pass through Xinjiang province. Also, the CPEC, as we've seen recently, has been affected by terror attacks. So, number one, China is concerned about this. Second, China wanted America away from Afghanistan because Afghanistan could have been a good listening post for America vis-a-vis China. Now that is abandoned. Third, China has economic interests in Afghanistan's mineral resources. So for China, it is a good development that America is well away from the horizon, and Pakistan, it can semi-control for its purposes. So as far as China is concerned, it is sitting pretty for the moment.
Lastly, my question to you, General Hooda, I've often heard this argued that given Pakistan's location, given its geography, the fact is that, you know, it has the sort of intelligence that is required and it has the sort of intelligence that has been passed on to other countries to avert terror attacks. It is, after all, a nuclear armed nation in a chaotic part of the world. You cannot do away with Pakistan. Is this an argument that you buy? Because there is a counter argument to that as well.
No, so Shreya, I don't buy this argument. As I said, you know, the Pakistanis frame themselves, you know, the whole narrative is that we are victims of terrorism. The fact is that they are the ones who are breeding terrorist organizations. I mean, aren't we seeing it? 20 years of war in Afghanistan, and the Pakistanis have literally handheld the Taliban. American soldiers have died because Pakistan supported Taliban, and the fact that they were sending fighters across the border. Now, at this stage, to say, you know, I like one term which Christine Fair in her latest article said, Pakistan is both the arsonist and the firefighter. So they're the ones who light the fire, and then they say, you know, you depend on us because we are the only ones who can fight this fire. I think, you know, countries now need to take Pakistan to task that you are the ones who are doing this. I cannot believe. I understand Pakistan has a important geostrategic location, but how much can you you know, just accept what Pakistan has been doing in terms of terrorism, not only in Afghanistan but in the whole region, also literally, you know, transnational terrorism that is coming out of their territory. So it's time, I think, that Pakistan needs to be completely called out.
Well, the Americans are calling it out, but will they walk the talk? If they talk about reassessing their relationship with Pakistan, what does that even mean? We'll just have to wait and watch over the next couple of months how this plays out. Ambassador Dogra, thank you very much for joining us. General Hooda, always good to have you on the show. Taking a quick break here on Debrief. Coming up next, why India is conducting military exercises at a scorching pace across the world. That special report up ahead. Do stay with us. Welcome back. In a world where geopolitical and geostrategic realities are changing very rapidly, India's military is wargaming with militaries across the globe at a very rapid pace, on land, on sea, in the air. And the reason is not just military. Take a look. 17 nations ZPAD military exercise currently underway in Russia. India's 200-strong contingent, wargaming with other armies, is an opportunity to learn from each other, practice operational tactics, pick up best practices and much more.
There has been a lot of events going around, and we are learning from different countries as well. So it is more of learning from the other countries. So we are having a good experience from the other countries.
In the last 1 year, India has undertaken an unprecedented number of bilateral and multilateral exercises across the globe. A year when the standoff with China escalated. From South Asia to Europe to even Africa, where China has deep investments and interests. The aim is not just military, it is strategic. Defense diplomacy is an instrument to further India's diplomatic interests in these uncertain times. Many of these drills traditionally have been with Russia, a close friend not just to India but China as well.
It is a proud moment for us that we are exchanging all the tactical information with Russian army, and we are exchanging drill also. So it's been a wonderful experience till now.
Military drills are also strategic signaling. For example, when the Quad naval exercise with India, US, Australia and Japan took place in the Western Pacific Ocean in August, the message to China was, your bullying will not be tolerated. Coming up next month, a Quad plus UK exercise in the Bay of Bengal, which is sure to upset China once again. That will be followed by India's first ever tri-service exercise with the UK, which will see aircraft carriers, fighter jets and ground troops from both countries participate. The India-China military exercise hand-to-hand has been suspended after the standoff in eastern Ladakh began. In New Delhi, I'm Shreya Dhondial. And there is one military exercise that is coming up with Sri Lanka and another one that is coming up with Nepal as well. With that, it's a wrap from me. Now, if you want us to deep dive into any subject or issue here on Debrief, you can write to me. My Twitter handle is @Shreya Dhondial, SHREYA DHOUNDIAL. Thanks for watching. Good night.